We're back. The power's back on at McGolf, and now let's do a live stream. We have got so much to talk about. It is absolutely crazy what's going on, and things that we want to do going forward. So let's get ready with what's in my drawers golf talk. Welcome back to What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. Jim McCleary here. And why is it What's in My Drawers? Because old club makers and club fitters are tremendous pack rats, and I'm no different. And that's what we started with. Stuff that was in the drawer in my shop, and it turned into this worldwide conversation of golf equipment repairs, fittings, opinions, and a lot of other topics too, which we might cover this time around. So let's get started. Number one. Let's get Victor Hovland a big thumbs up for the Hero Challenge. Won by 2 strokes, I believe, over Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler was putting the hammer down, but didn't quite have enough distance in order to catch him going towards the end. So I believe that's a repeat for him. So congratulations to Victor Hovland for that one. I saw that there was an Australian match for the ladies. I just didn't see who won. So congratulations to her as well. And hopefully that there's more of that, what we're going to see. I'd like to see Hovland is just he's always walking around with a smile. So that'll be very, very cool. All right. So we lost power. Yeah, we lost power. It's not very fun when you lose power. You end up looking at, this is what you see when you come home. You see that. You see a power line down with the meter base, and the bottom here was our disconnect that went to the house and went to our garage. And a little bit better, there's a even different look at it when they're starting to take it apart. And so what happens is we thought, what was going on is if we go back, and if you look here, there's a big curled up piece of wire in the distance on the right-hand side. That was the wire that was laying almost across that driveway. So we just couldn't have it laying across the driveway for the neighbors because down power lines are inherently dangerous. So we didn't want that. Unfortunately, that made us get on one of these. Yeah, it was a generator, a 5,000 watt generator. Now, I bought this thing. Yeah, a couple years ago when we had an outage. It didn't quite impact us too bad. Didn't need the generator. Bob, on the other hand, got impacted in summertime this year, and we loaned it to him, and he got one pole on it, got it started, and the electricity came back on. So this had 0 runtime. We started 3 pulls later. The thing's running like a champ, and it's keeping our refrigerators cool and frozen. And it was a mild temperature, never got into the 40s and 50s. So we only had to have a small heater going, and we kept our phones charged. But the bottom line is when we were doing this, the very bottom of that pole had our internet connection on it as well. So we were not able to get onto the internet other than via what the phone would do when you run out of cable. So everything was massively slow. Again, when we talk about this, that when you get to the pole part of it, you think, oh, well, the electric company's got down to that meter base that's down there. No, that's not how that works. Basically, all of a sudden, I owned a pole with a defective pole, for that matter, with a whole bunch of electrical stuff on it that I had no idea how we were going to fix. So we talked. The phone company or the power company wasn't very helpful in that regard. However, I was given a few names, and I got a hold of this guy, Nolan Construction. All right, he was able to come the very next day, take a look at it. He told me straight up that, hey, we had some work that day. We'll see you the next day. So another day on the generator, which I will give the generator a huge nod. When it's not loaded, it ran about 12 to 13 hours without having to put gas in it. So again, you're able to go to bed with a level of confidence and get up. Although we both slept on the couch listening for the thing to turn off. So the level of sleep wasn't nearly what we thought it would be. So we get there's him. Here we go. There they are pulling out the bottom of it. And that was the part that stayed in the ground, unfortunately. And then this is them putting it back in the ground. And then that's them finished with it after it's all said and done. So it looks good. Very, very professional looking. It, I mean, it was an improvement over what we had. Now the funny part is that, as the story goes, they like, well, you need a pole. Yeah, I know I need a pole. You got a pole? No, I don't have a pole. Do you got a pole? I said, well, I don't know. I might have a pole. They said, what? You might have a pole? Who has a pole? I said, dude, I own a driving range. Oh, okay. Well, just maybe a month or two earlier, Mrs. McGolf was talking with the neighbor. He says, hey, I'm really interested in those poles. So she said, come get them, because we didn't think we were going to need them. Duh, right? And so she calls and says, hey, we're going to need a pole back. And he says, no problem. Brought a pole down, and that's what you saw. So it was kind of funny. He's like, well, you mean you got a power pole? Well, yeah, sort of. And so we've now got it. So we got all it back, got the internet back, obviously. And we were able to do some cooking and get some folks together. And so this is what we made. Did some beans on the smoker. And then we did a 3 ribs for the niece, nephew, and the family, because they are some rib eating folks. So we made 3 and it turned out pretty good. I'm very, very glad. So we spent the whole rest of the week basically recovering and getting ready, putting everything back up, coiling all the things up, making sure the generator's ready to go again. And we're all good. Did a few fittings this weekend and it got good. We even were able to put up our little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. That's the before. I don't have an after just yet. We'll talk about that one later. So there's the power. There's the power escapade. All righty. So for topics. So I had I had the we'll say the pleasure of fitting or dealing with 2 guys that play to a 0 or a plus handicap this weekend. And it is amazing. So when they talk about, oh, it's easy to fit a guy with a low handicap, da 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 da. Well, I don't know. If all my fittings went like that, man, this would be great. But when you fit people at, let's say they're getting into golf, been into it, we'll call average golfers. And then some people get bit by the bug or have the physical capabilities of really going low, i.e., getting to zeros or even plus handicaps. And that's a lot of work. All right. That just doesn't happen. That is a lot of work. And these 2 have put in their time. And they're younger and they're stronger and they can get out there and get it done. And they talk about the lessons that they've taken and the workouts that they do. So, I mean, these are 2 very serious golfers. And so the first one, and I'm going to say, I don't know if I can talk over it or not. We're going to find out here in a minute. The first one I believe is the irons, and this guy plays to a plus. And I'm just showing you distances, and I want you to look up at the smash factors with these irons. And I gave you a couple of flights, and then look at where they landed. So let's get started. Well, if I unmute the mic, you might be able to hear it. You got to see the.
I don't hear anything.
All right.
There you are.
Okay. So there's that delay. So we're looking at we're looking at the 9 iron, and look how tight this thing is. It's just ridiculous. And he gets it out there, and he's 165 with a 9 iron. Now, to keep this in perspective, he was hitting some Mizuno 223s, which are not very lofted. They're very players like. If we go back to this, we see that it's a 226 to 117 carry from the 4 to the lob, 232 to 119. So not a bad little setup. All right. And so the thing what was going on with this is he was wanting to check gaps, and we were trying to make the spread smaller. And what was happening was he told me before the couple of clubs that he was having issues with. So we start the low end and we get to the top end, and I get to see how he's setting up to these things. And the very first club he comes up to that he doesn't like, I see it tilted up a little bit. He's like, "Oh," and he said, so I went out and I bent it down. I took it down about half to 3/4 of a degree, and I said, "Now hit it." Almost instantaneously, the ball strike goes up, the distance goes just a skosh further. It's not like this rocket ship or anything. He's always hitting it well, but he was hitting it better. So I marched it down to the degree, and he just absolutely striping it. And that was happening. So we went through the rest. He got to his other two clubs, and again, they were both upright. I bent them back down, and again, we were seeing some extraordinary numbers that were coming off these irons. I mean, a 4-iron with that level of a smash factor, that is absolutely in the dead center of that club. I mean, it was beautiful, and he was hitting it well, and very nice, easy swing. These were actually those we hit were new levels that I'd made him when the first new level irons came out. So I mean, just absolute. I'm sorry, those are the Mizunos. Anyway, he was just absolutely, and we made them for him, and just absolutely striping it, and that was really really cool. All right, so the next one is a driver. Our this guy here, his the driver face just gave out on him. He'd been playing this club for a while. He didn't like cave it in; it just went dead. At least that's what he went dead on. It was an older ping, not a nothing new, and it has a lot of play in it. And when you're swinging it this fast, that stuff can happen. That it can go dead, but it's a lot of play. So we'll see what happens here. Alrighty, so when we're looking at this, he has two. I gave him the Callaway triple diamond and the Callaway LS model using the exact same shaft. And if you look, he's hitting this thing almost on the button at 115, 116 actually. The spin rate was just a tad high, but not too bad. If you look, this is the triple diamond, and look how tight that pattern is. That is just, for a 300-yard shot, that's pretty doggone good. And although this isn't as tight, that's still very, very acceptable. Okay. And it just takes forever to get out there. But we saw that the dispersion was a little bit better. We saw that the way that he got out there was a little bit better. And then we see the acceleration profiles. He just looked like we're both pretty good because it was the same shaft. So that's just what it is. If we look at the spin rates, they were virtually, 50 RPM apart, which you couldn't see that. So we went with the one that went a little bit further and was a little bit tighter. Now, what the plan here is that we're also going to remove the shaft because he's got a custom shaft that's in that ping. We're going to put another adapter on it, uh, put it into make it so that'll fit his driver, and then let him so that he has a choice. Now, the other thing that we learned is in these cogs, and somebody on this live stream mentioned it once before, and I had to go ask about it. So, and that was at the very beginning of the year. So, Callaway has the black cog, which everybody sees. They also have a red cog, and the red cog makes the driver play flatter. Right? It's just a flatter lie angle at the same adjustments. And then the green cog, it makes the club play stronger. All right, because right now you can only go it's +2, +1, -1. So apparently you can go like a -1 or a -2 and make it play really much, much stronger. And so we're putting a red cog because he has a flatter swing, and that'll bring him into even a little more consistently and push him more close to the center. Now, I know you saw him, he was all the way over to the right. I've had this guy in here 3, 4 times now, and every single time he does that. And I said, "Do you land into the middle?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." He says he's playing for a draw, and I said, "Dude, that's more than a draw. That's a push hook." He says, well, when he gets out there, he's not really looking at my visual indicators that I have when he hits here. He's just hitting hitting in a field, trying to be the same, and which we saw that he did. So that is what I'm talking about. That is so much fun when you get to see these guys hit. Oh, and the other part of this is I gave him an option. Since you saw I did the video on the Mizuno Tour and the RB Tour and the RB Tour X. I let him hit them, and both these guys, both of them, went towards the RB Tour X. They liked the feel of it. It spun less than the other one did, and that's kind of what I found it did for me. So if you guys are looking for an alternative out there, and in fact, the second guy is a Mizuno fan. The iron player, he's a Mizuno fan, and he tried the original and absolutely did not like the original ball, much like I did not. And so I gave him this one. He was like, "Ooh," when we got done, he's like, "Yeah, give me a box of those things. We're gonna go." I said, "Well, dude, I don't have any, but you know that you like them now." So that's where we were at. So that's where you're pretty good. All righty, one last thing, and I don't have any to show you. Maybe Mrs. McGolf will give me some. Is we're at the end of the year. Okay, we're at the end of the year, and I didn't put it on here because I wanted the guys and gals that get on here and watch more frequently. Uh, we're at the end of our year with a lot of these golf clubs. So demo models, we have demo models that will be available. I will have some demo heads, and I will have some demo clubs. All right, and uh, there will be some Mizunos in the drivers, and there will be some Srixons in drivers, and I think uh, I might have a hybrid, and then I have some Wilson product as well. And I don't want to go through the whole thing, but needless to say, some of this stuff, well, all this stuff is actually in really good shape. So if you would email us at mcgolfshop@roadrunner.com or clubmaker@mcgolf.net, or just give us a call and talk with Mrs. McGolf. She'll have it all figured out. And if you're interested, great. If you're not, that's fine too. All right. So here we go. Bang. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here, let's get to the top. Whoa, wait a minute. I see somebody. Peter threw the super sticker at me. Oh my goodness. Peter, thank you. I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you how many times I appreciate this. I really, really do. I just absolutely shocks and amazes me that people do that, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Mrs. McGolf does too. So thank you very much. All righty. Danny Johnson, I'm outside barbecuing pork steaks. Just realized this is perfect barbecue weather. No flies. Damn Skippy. I barbecued I smoked a brisket yesterday. I had Bob and his wife over and my dad over, and we ate it. And I thought, well, this is going to be, when you put them in there and you forget about stuff. This one was about 6 months old, past the date. Of course, my dad's going to go, there's no such thing as a date. Well, it was frozen, and we cooked it up. And I'm here to tell you, they were impressed, and I was impressed to the point the women cleaned their plates off. So that was pretty good. And so, and so did my dad, who normally don't do that. So there you go. So thanks, Danny. That's a hell of a good lead in. Mr. Samson Boatfeld, what do you say, sir? Have you ever measured the CPM on an uncut parallel tip shafts? Yes, I have, many times. I've heard the difference could be 10 CPM, not 4, between clubs. Would you use a weight that is the same for all such shafts, such as a 205 gram? Let me see if I can interpret this. Have I measured CPMs on uncut parallel tips? Oh, and they could be as much as 4 and as much as, yeah, okay. So, all right, I know where we got to go with this one. All right, so Samson, here's the thing. Yes, they can be as much as 10 off, which is about 2.5 flexes. However, I've also found them when you do the spining part of it, and I know that can be controversial, and no, you don't have to do it. But when I've seen as much as a flex in difference in some of the steel shafts. Okay, now does that happen all the time? No, but yes, you can do that. So if you're measuring them uncut and you're finding them to be off, right? You're being off. Then what I tend to do is I put the ones that are light or in the lower flex at the top of the set and the ones that are stiff at the bottom of the set. All right. And then what you do, because when you're frequency matching or you're making sure the flex is correct, you're doing these typically one at a time. So you cut it to a certain spot, maybe give yourself a half of a step, and then put your club together, measure it, make sure that's the frequency that you want. If it's not, adjust. Okay. And that's your starting point. And you put that club behind you and you start over with the other ones. And you go to that spot, maybe give yourself that half a club and then trim it again. When you have sets that are very, very consistent, and there are some out there, Nippon is very, very consistent. In some models of KBS, they're very consistent, and some they are not. Uh, True Temper is very, very consistent when in the higher S numbers, the 400s and stuff, extraordinarily consistent, and you can pretty much know that this is the way it's going to happen, and then you can cut them that way. So when you get down to the bottom, you'll be surprised. It's not going to be nearly as far off as you think. Okay, but start at that spot. Maybe when you get down to the one that's very hard, give yourself a little bit more and work your way up into it, and then you frequency match yourself even when your set is out of uh, out of out of round, basically, or that where it could be that. All right. Uh, the weight that I use, if you're going to do them all, right? If you're going to do them all, the 205 will work, right? The 205 is one that you would use for typically for woods. There's another one that's a 250, 254 that would suffice for irons. All right, I've got them both. I don't use the 250 stuff so much anymore, unless somebody's got questions like this. Only because it's very, very heavy. It simulates something in the way of a very, very close to like a 5 iron. So, it can give you an idea, but it doesn't really matter because same is same, right? If you're using a 205 versus a 250, the numbers are just going to be, they should be the same, just one's higher than the other all the way through the set, right? And if they have movement, they ought to be the same in that same gap. And that's just what that is. Hopefully that helped. Brendan, what do you say, sir? Glad for staying up. Thank you very much. I swing weighted my clubs that got fitted for, and it's D2. Good. I received them at D4, not much of a difference, but I can feel it. How do you fix it? Yahoo, dude. Well, there's a couple of things, Brendan. It, all right, the most complicated way of doing it is taking them apart to see whether or not you have weights in them. Sometimes they will put a weight into them to get to a D4 spec and not realizing maybe they didn't need a D2. And you could pop those weights out, and you're probably going to be right at the D2 number where you want to be. That's the most complicated way. The other uncomplicated way is back weighting. Okay. Well, let's go back. If you have them apart, you can do other things like drilling them out but you have to take out quite a bit in order to take out, because you're looking at 2 swing weight points, which in effect is about 4 grams. 4 grams is pretty substantial. Okay. You can drill some stuff out. You can grind, but then the cosmetics come into play. and a lot of people don't want to go with that. So the next thing that you can do, when this is all without changing any of your gear, okay, the other part is you can back weight. Now, there are inserts. There's a couple ways of doing this. There are inserts that go into the butt of the club that are plastic, and then you can fill them up to suit with weight to get to your swing weight that you like. You can do that. There is also another way that would be even, you would have to change out your grips, but it might be where you want to be. What you can do is you take the grip off. I wish I had one close. Anyway, take the grip off, and underneath where your fingers would line up, right as you're grabbing it, like right here, where you would see that, I would put a strip or two of lead tape about 2/3 the length of that thing, and try and weigh it out and see what you get it to that weight so that you know what you're doing, and then put a grip back on that you like, and then that way that weight is sitting in your hands. All right, it's sitting in your hands, not just butt weighting. Uh, I tend to like that a little bit better. You can use a little less weight because you're physically just tricking it, right? You're putting weight right here so you don't feel weight out here. That is probably one of the best ways to do it. Now, another way of going about it is if you really, really wanted to just, not worry about so much, as you could put on a heavier grip. All right. So if you're using let's say a Tour Velvet style grip that's fairly light, I would suggest maybe going to a corded grip, right? A corded grip, or the MCC 4 Plus, the Z grips, anything that's heavier, and that heavier will automatically counterbalance. If you want to go like the video I've got that's going friggin' viral right now, uh, you could go with Jumbo Max. They got their tour models super heavy, and that would do it in an instant. But I wouldn't necessarily, just for swing weighting purposes, I wouldn't necessarily do that. But at first, you could just go with a heavier grip and see if putting that weight again under your hand helps you with that feel. That's where you can go. All righty. Emmanuel, what do you say? Happy Monday to you too. We'll be in the low 50s on Wednesday, tea time at noon. You are the man, going low in December. Thank you, climate change. Dude, Emmanuel, that just means that we're going to have blizzard condition. I mean, the guys in Buffalo don't think this, but uh, that just means in January you're going to be cold as cold can get. It's something else. And there's Peter. How are you, sir? Again, thank you so very much for the donation, the super sticker, whatever you want to call that. I appreciate that greatly. I really, really do. All righty. Charles, how are you, sir? Delmore in a sherry cask. Oh, here we go, guys. The question of the day, and Matt kind of got me on this one. The question of the day. The video coming up is what's in my bag. And that spurred me on to thinking about maybe a Christmas gifts video. And I'd like to put it out fairly quick because Christmas is around the corner. What would be number one for all you guys? What would be your number one Christmas gift? And then the second question is, uh, I'm looking at what I'm doing is I'm putting them in levels, like Christmas gifts under 25, 50, 100, and then 500, and seeing what so people have an idea. It's not necessarily things that are in my shop, although there are some, but I'm going out like on Amazon and I'm like, oh, this is a really good gift. I know about these things, and seeing where they lie and that kind of stuff. What would you guys think would make for a really good Christmas gift if you were trying to get somebody to buy for you? All righty. I think I got all that. Oh, and Charles, I mentioned you in the next video, so there you go. All right, Emmanuel soaked an old ping putter for 24 hours in Coca-Cola. You know what? That's what I've always been told. I've been told that's what you want to do. I bet did it turn it really copperish? And then you have to wipe it off really fast, otherwise it'll keep eating it. That's the other part of it. Hit it with some of that, clean it off real good, obviously, and then hit it with WD-40. All right. David Jones, how are you, sir? Glad to see your power is restored and that your internet is working. We are too. We are too, sir. Yeah. So the guys reported that they saw a snake in their blower building, and one guy ran out screaming like a girl, which I would have too. And another guy went in there with a pair of one of those grabbers from a distance and got him and threw him out. So I thought that was kind of funny. Manuel's going to put a new grip and we'll put it in play Wednesday. Well, let's hear how it works. I mean, the old pink putters, man, those things were all the rage. You were a putting machine if you had one of those. No doubt, right? All right, Brendan. Also, the price of new clubs are way too expensive, overpriced. They're getting there. Bought an Odyssey Tri Hot, 330 new, and trying to sell it for 180. Still no takers after 6 weeks. Not a popular putter. I like the Tri Hot line. I think that thing is really, really nice. I'm more of a fan of the wider model myself, but it doesn't come left-handed. So, but I like them. I like the feel of them. I like the fact that they're very heavy. Hello from the Kootenays. Kootenays. There you go. Matty J. What do you say, buddy? Let's see. Travis, Jersey checking in. What activities besides the show do you recommend to do in Orlando? If you're going down there, bring your clubs. Most of the guys that are golf professionals basically will take 2 or 3 days down there, and Monday is typically one of those because it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday kind of ordeal, right? It's Tuesday is the demo day, so they will make the demo day and they'll go around that. And Wednesday, they will go in and they will run around the PGA show and see their favorites and maybe investigate a little bit. And Thursday, end of Wednesday, Thursday / Friday is spent golfing. Okay, there's obviously, pardon me, there are several uh, courses that are nearby. Falcons Fire. There's some Shingle Creek are very, very close. They treat the PGA folks pretty good there. They're the PGA members, pretty good. If you really wanted to go a little bit more commercially, there's Disney's properties got a handful. There's a couple others. If you got a PGA like Orange Tree or Orange Tree National or Country Club, Orange Tree Country Club, Orange Tree National is where the demo day is held, and it's got two golf courses on it. The Panther, and I can't remember what the other one is. You can do that. If you're not into the golfing, obviously in Orlando you have the Universal Studios and you have Walt Disney that you can go see. If you're not into that kind of stuff, with a little bit of traveling, you can go over to there's Daytona, and you can go see the LPGAs over there. You can go to you can see Ron John Surf Shop in Cocoa Beach. That's got that I mean, it's Ron John Surf Shop, man. You can go hang out there. If you're more of a history buff, you can go north about an hour or two and go to St. Augustine and go to the World Golf Hall of Fame. And they have two golf courses there that are extraordinarily nice. So you can hang out in there. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And if you're into fishing, if you like fishing, they got Lake Okoboji. They got fish in there as big as you. So there's all kinds of stuff to do out there. Or not Okoboji, Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee, and Lake Okeechobee's there, and you check out that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to do there. All right. Big game this Saturday, so I'm told. Woohoo. Oh, yeah. Was it? Is it Army Navy? Robin was telling me about it. Yes. Yay, because he smokes the dank. James Hodges, how are you, sir? Thank you for staying up. Hello, all. Hope you're having a nice day, evening, night, depending on where you live. And that couldn't have been said any better from somebody that's watching us from the night. All righty. Danny Freeman. If you live close to me, could I get a new pole? 42 years with the power company. Oh, you could get me a new pole. Dude, I wish. I wish. And the funny part is the local that's up here has, I mean, they've got all the stuff. They got the derrick digger, they've got the pole setter, they've got the whole thing. And they got the neat little trailers to tow them by or just set them on the side of the truck depending on the size. And they've got the skill sets. It's just that they, just the where the lines of where they don't want to take responsibility anymore for probably something's happened in the past and they just don't want to do that. So that's just what it is. In fact, my golfing buddy's an ex AP. He's a, ex lineman. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. All righty. Thank goodness you don't need power for the barbecue. Actually, Charles, I do. It has electric so that because it's a pellet grill, it has an auger that and a temperature probe that is controlled by a computer. Although with the 5,000-watt generator, I could have plugged that baby in and it would have been no problem whatsoever. I had all kinds of room left on the load. Oh, and I learned how to make an old fashioned over the weekend too. That was something else. Michael Barber, how are you, sir? From the UK. Well done, thank you. 80 degrees, yeah, Texas. Uh-huh. Thank you. It's supposed to be in the 20s when I wake up tomorrow morning, and with a high of maybe 40. So hope we get that one. Okay, guys, again, if you would like and subscribe, if you would hit all that stuff down there. That way this goes out to the world, and I'd appreciate it very, very much. Again, I got to give my thanks to Peter for the the super sticker, we'll call it. I appreciate it. Joe Dennis, I bought a generator after the Iowa debacero. It is still sitting in the office in the box. And Joe, if that's all you ever have to do to make that happen and never use it again, consider yourself a lucky man. I went 2 years without having to pop that bad boy open, and I'm telling you what, I'm glad that Bob had to set it up first. Otherwise, I'd have been still wrenching on it. But yeah, it's great where it sets. Look at that, Matty J giving Robin some props. Just like running the diesel on the boat, eh, Jim? Prepare for the snorkel. Yeah. Well, it kind of put me in that direction. I was like, oh, here we go. I had to set it away from the house, the noise, and the whole 9 yards. I know it was just echoing out into the neighborhood, but you got to keep the refrigerators cold, and the room's hot. So that's what we did. Although the A-gangers ran the diesel on our boat, although in some the nukes ran it in the other one. All righty. Rig house reduced. Yeah, we did do that. We did that in a big way. I turned off all the lights. It took us, I bet it was a full 24 hours, and we'd walk into every room and flick on a light, and you'd flip it on, damn it. And you're like, and it went down there, and that was it. So it was pretty good. That was you for 2 days, not me. Did not. Kent, how are you, sir? That was a lucky break getting that pole back. Yes, it was. The neighbors are fine individuals. And he brought it back with his John Deere tractor, and it was all good. And there's Miss McGolf agreeing. Tom's Golf, how are you, buddy? I play the scratch golfer every day, Jim. It's all about the short game. Length isn't everything. Well, there are several books, Kent, that would disagree with you, but the putt for dough, drive for show kind of concept. You've got to be. Yeah, I don't care who you are. If you're not lethal inside 150, it's not going to matter. And you just got to be confident with it, And both of those guys said that they had a really good putting year. That just tells me everything I need to know. In fact, I've got one. I'll have to show it to you guys when we do it next time. He left his putter, a new putter, Kerma. I think it was called Kerma. It's out of Illinois. I don't know much about it just yet. He always finds the most interesting new, new custom putter maker type guys on the internet. I don't know where he finds them, but he's got a Lamb putter and a Scotty, and the Mizuno putter I made him is the one that he games. So it's funnier than I'll get out. Oh, speaking of putters, so the BGT in the wedge shaft that we saw did there. I had him. I had both the guy. Well, I had the driver guy hit it, and you saw that was the sandwich. And I had him hitting uh, I shafted it up with a Wilson, and I just let him hit it. And he says, "Wow, you can really feel the head." I said, "I know, not bad for 115." He looked at me real funny because he's used to swinging a 130. He says, "This feels just like a 130," and he was just drilling it. He was drilling it, and you saw the way that he was swinging it. He must have hit 20 shots. Now, out of the 20 shots, 2 or 3 of them weren't in the consistency band, and he was just like, "Wow, this is something. There's something to it." Well, I talked to the guys at BGT, and they are now sending me a putter shaft. So we're going to be able to talk about all those guys. You guys are asking me about the BGT shaft. So we're gonna make a video out of putting this shaft together and seeing if it works. Oh yeah, they both do. I mean, 300-yard carry. He's like, I said, well, what are you playing your driver to? He says, 278, 280 in that area. I said, really? With your swing speed? And he says, yeah. I said, no. And it really made a difference when we went to the new product, right? It's not that, if his driver was really going south and was not reflecting anymore or bending or giving, that's probably a decent number. And it was funny that I put him in that, and it just took off. And 298 and 300 carry, good gravy. That is just something else. Now, one thing I said, let's have a little bit of fun. I shafted up I have a Nippon 130 and an S Flex, which is like anybody else's X. I'm here to tell you, and it's a good little shaft if you're that kind of guy. Of course, this guy was, and I gave him the Mizuno 225. That's the hollow body iron. I said, here, just hit this and see what you do with a 6-iron. I said, what do you think a 6-iron goes? And he says, oh, it's 180, ish for me. I said, you lie like a cheap rug. He says, okay, maybe 190. I said, you're still lying. And so we hit him, and he was like 195 to 200 with the new levels that I made him, which are not strengthened. So that's a good number. And I said, I gave him these. I said, now let's see what you do. First one right out of the box was 215. And he made it up to 220, very, very low 220s, but between 217 and 220. It was, he says, well, what do you do when you get down and, and you're hitting your 7-iron 200 and plus? And I was like, there you go, dude. I mean, what do you do? And that's the reason why we do fittings, right? So that it's not all about just creaming it, just like Kent said, it's about having these distinct different lengths that you can rely on when you're playing. And that would have been ridiculously long for him. But I mean, it was fun to hit. Fun to hit. There's Lombard. What do you say, buddy? I know it's cold up there. I'm surprised you don't have snow. If I had patterns like that, I'd be a scratch golfer too. Charles, that is no doubt. You notice that there was a spot we had to talk about. He had a 20-yard gap between the 9 and the 8, and he was smoking the 9. He was hitting the 8 that much better. If you look at the swing speeds and things like that, it was all in line. The spin rates in line, swing speeds in line, the whole 9 yards. He just hit it better. He's just one of those guys who's just confident with it. Now he had another swing where he held on to it, instead of just letting it go, and that's what we talked about that too. And when he holds on to it, that distance comes back and fills that gap. So he's got 2 shots. Seems like fitting a scratch golfer would be easier because they know and the feel of the club and know how to solid strike, unlike me. And me and me too, Danny. That's for sure. And that was the premise. So it's kind of funny. When you talk about different skill sets of golfers, different skill sets of golfers have different priorities. Like beginning golfers are still trying to figure out how to hold a club, how to stand up, how to swing, how to do these things, and the mechanics of it. And that's probably anything from over 100 to maybe, say, 95 ish. Okay. When you're in that 95 to 85, it's you have the motion and you're doing it right, but you're still more now. You're like, well, it's paralysis by analysis, where you hit this thing and you hit it out there and it didn't do what you want, and you're immediately starting to just going over in your head, what did I do wrong, what did I do wrong, what did I do wrong, as opposed to just shaking it off and going and hitting the next club. And I'm telling you that they get inside their own self. Then you get into the next style, and then you start hearing stuff like, well, if I would have hit better on this one hole or not put one over here, and it becomes a level of course management. And that takes you down into right around 80. And then on the other side of 80, it becomes people wanting to say, well, I didn't feel that shot. It didn't feel very good. And in most cases, it would be very imperceptible to people watching or even listening that they didn't hit it very well. But they feel it, and they just by ticks off, because now they have their mechanics are sound. They know where they want the ball to go. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to make it get there with the skill sets that they have. And both these guys are they're super nice guys, and just little tweaks and just little. Well, hey, how about if you did this? And the one that he was on the 7, we got to the 7 iron. He really, really did not like the 7, and I was watching him, and I said, and he was pulling the ball. He was pulling the ball to 200 plus, and I said, that's not right for you. And he says, it's not even going the right spot. It's not going the right distances. And he looks at me, he says, I know. And I said, would you be willing to hear what I have to say? And he goes, well, sure. I said, you're standing too far from the ball. You get to see, when I get to stand here and I get to watch, I get to see the stance, their posture, the whole 9 yards going on this. And I said, you're reaching out to it. And when you reach out, that's a pull. He kind of thinks about it. And he goes, you know what? I felt that. So he gets in, and I said, now the first couple may not be as good as you think. And sure enough, it was a little bit behind it because it was a different feel. About 2 more shots into it, he's striping it down the middle at the right length. And I said, that's probably all it was. And he said, okay. So we hit some more so he could get used to it, and then went on. So that was fun. Gary Weinhold, what are you doing, buddy? That's a new name. Thank you for joining us. Does the driver shaft wear out, and how often do you have to switch out driver shafts? Okay. Number one, do driver shafts wear out? The answer is yes. Yes, they do. The thing is, not very often. All right. The guys at GolfWorks had that very question, and how they figured it out is, so in the day, what you did is you put a golf shaft in a receiver, and then at the very end you'd hang this weight and the bend, and then it would bend, and then you would draw a line on some graph paper, and that's how you would know what the flex was of this thing, or the bend profile. Well, one day they just decided to leave the weight there, and they left the weight there to see whether or not it would deform the shaft. And then from there they said, well, if the deformation was based on so many hits for so much time, da 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 da. And yeah, you can get that, but it takes an extraordinarily amount of time. Now you could have, in some cases, Gary, when you see this, you could have on graphite shafts maybe an internal failure, right? Not necessarily external, but internal, and things starting to give out in that, and that might be what you're seeing or feeling in that. In steel shafts, it can rust. I don't know if it really would impact the performance of the club. In my opinion, based on the fact that it's metal, it's going to play good until it just snaps. It's just going to have this brittle failure, and bam, you're going to be done. And so that's where that goes. So the answer is yes, they do. If you keep cycling it, and like putting your garage in your garage experiences extreme colds and extreme heat, then yeah, you're going to cycle it, and yes, it's going to find its way to failure faster. But you measure this thing in years. I would agree with that, Mr. Kent. I would agree. Yeah, his is 20 yards past mine. Pretty great ball striking, whoever it is. Well, it turns out the 4-iron guy is actually from Canada, and he works in Columbus. He's a chiropractor. So a good guy, super good guy. And hell, I don't even hit a 4-iron, Tom. So it's so far past me, it's not even funny. Brennan, Jim? Is there such a thing that you need a 6-7 irons, a bit flattened and more than the other in the same set? Uh, I know I don't necessarily subscribe to that, Brendan, but it's not out of uh, it's not out of an idea, right? I would think that that would be more inclined to be closer to the 3, 4, and 5 than the 6, 7, and 5, but the way upper end set than that one. Now, keep in mind that if you're purely measuring them by design, the 6, 7, and the 5 are flatter by design. So, for instance, if you start the pitching wedge, it's a 64-degree liner standard. The 9-iron would be 63 and a half, 863, 62 and a half, 62, 61 and a half, 61. You see where I'm going with that? Now, if you're saying flatter than what would be standard, right, then it would be standard. In some cases, maybe if maybe when you get into where you're standing a little bit taller because of the length of the club, that you bring the club back in, say, a different fashion. That is not unheard of. Okay. And in that case, the answer would be yeah, you would need to do that. But as a whole, not so much. Michael Barber, what are your thoughts on the Wilson D9 irons looking for my Christmas present? Okay. So, Michael, the D9 is the distance model iron for Wilson right now, and it is getting ready to get replaced by the it's an old name, Power something or another. And, huh?
Starts with a D. D is in dog.
No,
I bet. Dynapower. Not Dynapower, but something similar.
Dynaplex maybe. I don't. Anyway, they're reinvigorating an old name from the 70s that was a very popular iron for them. The Wilson D9 as it currently sits, which I have one, is an excellent forgiving club. Okay. It looks a lot like this. Let me clock this off. There it is right there. It has a very large sole so that you won't get stuck. So if you're a guy that tends to come down, this will bounce you out. If you're a little flatter, this might give you trouble in that the tail edge, right, the trailing edge might get caught and cause the club to do that. Maybe. All right. I do like the fact that it is very rounded here. It is very rounded here. I like round. I don't like edges. It has a generous offset. This one isn't crazy, not one of those really super offsets. I would call it a medium offset. And then it's got the power holes, and the power holes change dimension and spacing and all that stuff so that the face can flex. They're actually very strong, and they basically hit a ton. They're very, very nice. So, and now they also have the D9 forged, which I sold bunches of those. All right, those performed very, very well, and is a forged version of this, smaller, uh, little offset, and not as strong. And a forged club, obviously, versus not being one there. The sole was a little less wide. Is a little less wide. So yeah, I like them. If you're looking for a distance club, a very forgiving distance club, then that could be for you. All right. Now the real trick here is getting the right shaft in those things, right? The lie angle, the shaft weight flex, and grip, and then pick out your layout that you would like. But yeah, they're nice. All righty. There's Robin telling us we got good neighbors and my dad's next door. You bet. Michael Barber Wilson makes great clubs. I have a set of this D7 forged and the D9 forged. I'm sure the D9s are just as good. And there we go. We're all agreeing there. There's Mr. Polsky. How are you, sir? Hopefully you're not too far under the snow just yet. Jerry Smiley, how are you, buddy? Went for a driver fitting at one of the big box stores, hit the Rogue and didn't hit it well. Okay. Hit the ping better, but hate the sound, decided to wait as neither out hit my epic flash. Well, there you go. There is a gentleman that I fit, and he's got the epic flash in his bag. And once a year, he will come down, and I will say, well, let's see if we can't beat it. And I haven't beat it just yet. I've tied it, but there's no need. If distance is what you're looking for and all you can do is tie, there's no sense in changing it over, right? And he's a good golfer, so it wasn't that big a deal. But it's funny how that has actually been one of those things that has stuck around, right? It's stuck around very, very well. All right, Michael Barber, thank you. And yes, I need to take a look. Okay. Let's see. Danny Freeman, every time I tried to get fitted, I have a push fade. Never on the golf course, always straight. I guess I try to swing harder inside on the simulator. Danny, now here's the thing. You wouldn't be alone, okay? You would not be alone. And I think a lot of times when we had Mark in here for that one, he will jump on it every once in a while. I'll watch him climb. He'll get up to 120, and I said, look, dude, the simulator doesn't care how hard you swing, and he'll start laughing because he knows what I'm trying to do, and he'll get back down there. And you saw how he was within a half a degree for on average for at least 10 or 12 swings. So he's got it going on. He knows how to. He's got that extra gear if needed, but he doesn't get into it. And there are people that get kind of freaked out about four walls, right? I'm not freaked out about the four walls. I hit my irons pretty decent. What it was is there for the longest time, because I have a big net, right? I have a big net, and I always thought I was going to hit the front of the bar with the driver, and I am nowhere close. We'll go with the 12-foot ceiling. Even if I do like this with it, if I stick it straight up in the air with a 4 foot, being 6 foot, I'm barely, I'm scraping it basically. And I'm just like, and finally, the last couple of rounds that I've been hitting, I finally got over that, and the quality of the hits went way up. So you're not alone, bud. Really interesting to see Mark's fit. Hope you're well. Yeah, so he ended up with, I fit him initially into a 9-degree, 44-inch club. And because he was out there and I was trying to bring him around, and I had him lasered in. He was hitting it out there, and that turned into a hook. It turned into a hook because he was closing the face. He was coming very deep from the inside, and he was just hooking it. Well, and it wouldn't have mattered what I gave him, he would have hooked it. He would have had to take it out over one fairway and bring it back in. That's how bad he was bending the ball, kind of Bubba-like bending. And this time around, I watched, and he had changed his posture, and the club went out. It went out further, and then came to the inside, and then he swung through a much cleaner, a much cleaner swing. And you can see where he punches it out. And I said, "Now you're sure about this?" And "Oh yeah. Okay. Well, in that time frame, what he's done is he went to a standard length club, and what that did effectively was slow down his turnover. Right, the club was getting slower to square, and that was what was helping him. So, he got it out there, and as evident that with the other driver, he was starting to go this way, and that could have been the face, right? We're going this way, and then once we got him back into his weight and his flex, which the shaft I was using was the 75 Tensai White and X, and it went right back. The shaft that I have in there for him right now is the UB from Graphite Design, which is even as stout, so he'll have no problem. There's Mr. Polsky. Just get a hold of Robin. We'll talk about it. And there it is, Mr. Peter and the super sticker. Sir, I appreciate it. I really, really do. There we go. Look at that, Charles. John Sheehan, how are you, sir? I finally get to a live version. There you go. Oh, you're up here in Ashland, really? Well, dude, use shafting beads. I most certainly do. They call it Quick Center if you get it from Golf Works, they call it Quick Center. But yeah, shafting beads. I use them. Use them in just about. I use them in every application of gluing save one, and that's when I was putting together Club Connects and talking with Eric. They did the testing, and that stuff just got in the way. So that's the only time. But every other time, yeah, I use them. All righty. There's Peter. Ray, does shaft iron stiffness matter in irons? Well, yeah, Roy, it does to an extent. I mean, is it the most prominent thing? No. It would be my humble opinion, when it comes to the club, one of the more important factors is the actual length. If you can't find the middle of the golf club, it doesn't matter. And the length of the club is regardless of weight. You'll find the middle. The other one after that is the total weight of the club, of which the shaft plays a very large part of. All right, and then in tie, it would be my opinion again. Tying would be profile and flex. Right, the you want to be in the right area. Now, when we talk about flex or stiffness, it's not just all related to swing speed. It's tempos, loadings, releasing, the whole nine yards. So you can have an S flex, say in a dynamic gold S300, is going to play differently and certainly, and give you different results than say a Nippon 120S or even a KBS, whether it be a tour or a C taper or whatever, uh, in that same stiffness. Or for that matter, if you went down a little bit lighter and you went to 95s, the 95s, and there's a 95 Geo with Nippon, a 95 GH. There's a 95 gram tours in KBS, and Elevate's got 95 gram shafts, and they all play differently in that same flex. So that's the reason why I promote that more. Now, can you be way out, like playing an X flex, and you're swinging at something that might be into the senior range? I think you would notice it. It would feel bad. You would probably the difference is that you would, in a proper flex, you'd probably hit a little bit higher, a little bit longer, and a little bit more spin. And in the control, if you're in the same length area, we'd have to see. And so that's where that's at. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see if I can do that. You did it already? Well, there you go. I did it again. That's the reason why I'm sitting at the computer. All right, here's one. Armando Serrano Jr. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us. I've invested in Titleist shafts and their adapters. I have at least 4 Titleist shafts. Is it safe to say that the manufacturers have settled on a shaft and adapters in their loft and lie? Manufacturers. Yes. Yes, whatever that might become. So it depends if it's in the driver, right? The adapter's got to fit in there. It's going to fit in one particular way. Now, I am sure that if you're, on the tour or something, that they would, have maybe something a little different, much like the Callaways have the red or the greens to give you different lie angles. All right. The lofts ought to be the same no matter what. Okay. Should be the same no matter what. Now, if you're talking about irons, they have a different adapter that goes into the irons, and it should be the lie angle will be relegated to whatever that iron is. Okay. But yeah, and thanks for the question. Sevy Tierney, what do you say, buddy? What is the difference between the nipping 105, the Nippon 105 and the nipping the AWS shaft? So the 105 is the Modus, and the Modus 105 has a profile that is very similar to their 125s. It's a little bit more stiffer profile. The 120 is a little softer profile in that particular area, closer to the 115. Okay. The 105 plays a little closer to that. The AWS is that it's an ascending weight shaft, meaning that it's a lightweight shaft at, so the other ones would be constant weight. There you go. The AWS is ascending weight where it's a little lighter at the 4 and a little heavier at the say the wedge shaft or the pitching wedge shaft. And that would be that difference there. Now, their profiles, I believe, also change a little bit more kind of in a flighted way, where it's a little bit more kick at the top and a little stiffer at the bottom as well. There he is, PZ. Hello, golf people. Sorry I'm late. Had a client in for instruction at the shack. Hope I didn't miss anything good. I have to go back, buddy. Did you get that dog taken care of? That one that showed up on your property? There's Jim. All right. John Sheehan. Okay. Jim thinking about making a single set of irons, 5 or 6 iron length. Any advice? Okay. So if you're going to make a single length club, single length clubs rely on the fact that the iron heads all weigh the same. Now, that is a trick. That is a design abnormality, we'll say. It takes quite a bit of designing to ensure that these things all weigh the same. So it's not just taking a 7 iron and bending it to whatever loft that you want, or an 8 iron for that matter, or a 6 iron, and just bending it the way that you want. That's just not how it's going to be. Now, I've been approached in this, and they're like, well, we'll take a 7 iron and we'll start grinding off of the wedges and taking weight off and adding weight to the other ones. Well, then you change the way that the irons were designed. You change the center of gravities, the way that they're going to hit, the whole 9 yards. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with single length clubs. The theory behind these things are very solid, right? And I don't have any problem with them at all. But you want to go get single length iron heads and do that. Now, if you're going to build them 5 or 6 iron length, that's literally uh, an inch to an inch and a half over what standard would be, right? In the Sterlings or the what is it, the EQX ones, they assume an 8 iron length. I like sevens. But if you go seven, let's assume seven, so it's a half an inch over, or a five is a full inch over. If you're a tall fella or that you stand very, very straight at address, you might find that maybe just a six is all you need. And keep in mind that once you start getting above seven, the swing weights are going to go up and across the board. So you want to be in line with that. And the build actually is fairly simple. You just get all the same shaft, weigh them out, and be good to go. I've done several of those. If you go back and look at some of the boxes to build, I've done some single length, and you can go there. But I do like the idea of them. It's just a matter of making sure angles are in the right angle, the right spot. Your lofts are spread as the manufacturer would say, and go out and have some fun. All righty. Daryl Carpenter, good to see you back. Thank you, sir. Wet and windy in England too. Oh, went for a PXG driver and 4-wood fitting. All right. I have a mid 80s driver swing speed figure recommended the even flow Riptide counterbalance. All right. I like counterbalance shafts, Daryl. I think they're great. And it puts a little bit of weight back in the back and allows you to generate a little bit more club head speed. I'm sure that that's what they're talking about. The long drive guys, that's a trick. They will back weight and put weight under their hands to make that club a little bit lighter so that they can get a little bit more snap into the ball. That's what they do. Jack Nicklaus he counterbalanced all his clubs, and that dude was a bomber. All right, he was a bomber for the day. So yeah, I don't see any problem with that. All righty, so let's get rid of this jack wagon. There we go. That was an easy one. All right. Thinking about making a set. Okay, we did that one. And we did that one. It must have went up somehow. All righty. James Hodge, if you add a quarter half inch to an iron, how much would it alter the lie angle? And would you notice it dynamically? A quarter inch is a quarter degree, a half inch is a half a degree in that, and it would make it be more, I always get these wrong, upright, I believe, if you made them longer. In the tall irons, probably not so much, but you would the half inch I would assume, depending on your skill level, when you got into say the 9 iron and all the wedges, you might notice it. You start hitting more heel shots, in which case you can just flatten it. There's Matt. Hey, Matt Drew's indoor training question. All right. Well, hopefully Drew's doing good. Who put wax on their clubs before the winter? I put mine on. I put them on after all the repairs too. Everybody gets a coat of wax. All right. Don Irving. There was a Don Irving that was up north, and he was part of the PCS. I'm wondering if this is issue. Hi, do you think regular shafts in the manufacturers put in are as good as aftermarket shafts? Okay, Don, this is a two-part question, or two-part answer. In some cases, they are aftermarket shafts. All right. I know for a fact, like Wilson uses the aftermarket shaft. In some cases, Mizuno uses the aftermarket shaft. I believe Srixon uses the aftermarket shaft, the real ones. All right, we'll call them the real ones. The ones that Don is actually alluding to is, say, it is prevalent with Callaway, Titleist, TaylorMade, or all the big three that use them. Ping uses their own proprietary shafts, so it doesn't really count so much. but the other ones that say regular flex and it's maybe a Tennessee blue and it's maybe not be the right one. And it is made specifically the way that they say it now is it's not necessarily proprietary, but it was made for them. So it's a real Tennessee blue. It's just a Tennessee blue made for Callaway.
You're over, but I'm going to let you go.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And but that's what it is. So if they tend to work out fine, that's good. Old story is Callaway used to deal with the Mitsubishi Fubuki, and I knew they were nowhere near the same because I was a Mitsubishi guy. But the Fubuki that was in the Callaways worked better for me than the Fubukis that were aftermarket. They were just a little bit too much where this one was just right. So in a lot of cases, if it's matched up good, that's fine. What the other section is that when we talk R-Flex, it's really funny between R-Flexes between manufacturers can be wildly different. Wildly different. We are killing it today, guys. I appreciate this. This is a lot of fun. I'm getting some really good questions. What's the difference between the pawn? Okay, we did that one. Yep, Charlie does his. Kent uses wax. Open date. Well, anytime, bud. You guys work it out. All right. Look at these two guys. They're funny. All right. Play Panther Lakes at North. There you go. That was the I call it what does I call it? Panther Pass or some the Panther Lakes, yeah. That one is that one's the harder of the two, right? I think that is. There was two of them on there, and the Panther's the harder of the two. It's they're both nice layouts to be sure, but that one, if you're looking to be challenged, that's the way to go. Peter says the Marriott has a golf course too. I don't know which one it is, but that'd be one to go check out. I don't think you'll be too disappointed in any of the tracks that are around the Orlando area, to be sure. Yep, I played on one of those, Charlie. I actually played with a guy from Japan, and he was running out to the ball. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And he says, well, in Japan, you have to schedule your round a year in advance. You play no matter what the conditions are, and if you don't keep up the time, they just throw you out. And golf is tremendously expensive there. And I said, "Whoa, geez, that's good to know." I said, "But I said, do you mind if I tell you a few things?" He says, "No." I said, "Number one, this is not Japan." He kind of went like this, and I said, "You can relax, man. Just relax, and let's have a good time. We'll get a beer at the end of the round. It'll all be good." This dude got a smile from ear to ear on his face. It was funny, told stories. It was a blast, an absolute blast. So there it is. Lake Buena Vista Country Club, a great resort track. There's one. Oh, the Marriott. I know which one you're talking about. Is that the one that had uh this is a guy just retired from broadcasting. Nick Price or Nick Faldo. That's the other one. Nick Faldo. He had one that was there. He had a studio that was out there. That was a really nice course. There's Lake Buena Vista. All right. There you go, Matt. Right answer. Right answer. Right there. I can't do it that way. There we go. Oh, another guy. I actually fit a retired Master Chief. He was an Airedale, so I didn't hold it against him. Uh, and oh man, the dude was a class act. Absolute class act. Very good guy to talk to. There you go. Come on over. There's lots to do. And they also have, if you, oh, the other one, Travis, if you're still listening, uh, the nightlife across in Orlando Point is pretty cool. They have a few places to go eat, that kind of thing. There's a ginormous Ferris wheel not too far, about a couple blocks down. And what we like to do is we like go 2 or 3 blocks down, and there's like a Pirates Cove putting place where it goes up and down and around, and we just have a blast at that place. Used to be one right across the street, but they sold out and it's now something else. But we go out there and we putt. That just we have the like championship of the universe. That's what we do. So it's great. There you go. All right. Look at Robin Axon there. P. Funknell, what do you say? Callaway Paradigm is great. Hit it today. Ooh, Paradigm, huh? Is that what they're calling it now? The new Apex? I'm waiting, dude. My rep is up north. I got to get his butt out of that area and get him down here. All righty. Hello there, sir. There's Gear. Okay. Vic Gear. All right, Vic. Should my irons be individually adjusted for lie or two up throughout the set? They are +1 elevate in the PXG irons. Okay, Vic. So as a whole, what I like to do is if we find like I test at the 6 iron and I do lie angles at the 6 iron. And I whatever that is, I adjust them up and down the set, like you say, two up throughout the set. Now, as Brendan was alluding to, and the upper end may be a little flatter than the shorter end of the scale of the irons. Okay, that's always a possibility. Now, the one thing that I would suggest is if you think that you're not, and this has nothing to do with where you're hitting it, has everything to do with how you interact with the turf. All right, if you interact with the turf and such that you get like this and you're coming through, that's great. If you're here like this on one and here like this on the other, then I would do a lie angle test and make sure that you're getting it right where you need to be. Now, and it's not just PXG alone, but I will say there is no guarantee that even if you order them like that, that they will come to you like that. You need to have them checked. So if you think that they're out, I would suggest a lie angle check and then see if they won't bend them into place for you. Dynapower. I think that's what they're called, Charlie. I think that's what they're going to call them. I just I'm not. I would that I'm about 75% confident that's what it is, and I've seen them. They're very very clean. They really are. Even the woods are going to be very very clean. That's something they're getting better. But I just can't wait for them to get in so I can test them. Past my prime. Had to laugh at your mention of the deflection board, the most unused piece of equipment in my shop. If I knew then what I know now, I certainly would never have bought it, but it looks good. Yeah, they're everybody has their idea of what that does, right? Some guys want to use the line on a ball and hit it and look at the line. Uh, yeah, and there's another one out there too, where you can hit on this thing and it leaves a scuff behind it and it can tell you what you're doing to the club. All right, everybody's got their way of doing it. If I, in a perfect world, if I wanted to do mine in my hitting area, and they do make it, is they put a hitting area inside of it and it's even with that. Now, in another world, you could just throw down a piece of plywood and let them hit off of it. But I think there'd be too much movement like this in order to make that happen. I know a lot of people don't like them. I do, and we get right where we need to go when we're there with that. All right, aloha, Jim and Robin. Hello, buddy. All right, Matt, you heading away? No, I live here. That's the other Matt. This is a different Matt. It's a different Matt. Yeah, that's right. There you go. The other Matt. Oh, Mohai. What do you say, buddy? What you been up to? I didn't know if you were still out there or not. Robin's gonna freak out. Yep, there it is, right there. No way. Yep, that's the one. There you go. Taking care of the folks, getting back into the golf, and T-Dub just built me a new set of irons. Uh-oh, here we go. Have you been keeping up with it, bud? Because I know you had that really violent swing. We certainly will, buddy. Appreciate it. It's on the bucket list. Maybe. Back in the product video. So, look, all if you guys don't know, this Matt is his name's Matt Mohai, and he was Tom Washawn's right hand guy when they were first getting started. And Matt, if nothing else, is quite the character. Uh, has shown me some pictures. I won't go into too deep a detail, Matt, but his folks were relatively well known and in certain circles, and just he's a super nice guy. He really is. He's a super nice guy. Tells you how it is, and he does it in a comical fashion, which was always a pleasure. So yeah, he's a good man. All righty, David Arndt. I hope I said that right. Do true temper AMT shafts make sense for lower handicap player, or better to use consistent weighted shafts? David, it depends on your feel. The ascending mass technology, you know, the way that I look at ascending mass technology is that each one of the shafts is built for each one of the heads for a particular kind of thing. So if you are looking for maybe a little bit higher or a little bit lower fly, a little bit higher in the wedges, or vice versa, then this might be the way to go because there's white, reds, and blacks, right? And they do something a little bit differently. If you're a guy that likes things to feel very consistent, very much same across the board, then I would say constant weight shafts are a much better purchase. All righty, look at that. Look at that. We did this one. There's the McGolf. Hey, look with my logo and everything. Gee, many Christmas. Tells you how often I've done that. All right. No, she did. She went upstairs just a minute ago. Oh, this whole being here at the house is great. Rick, playing the Pond Modus 115 stiff, thinking about a graphite recommendation, something comparable. Well, the 115, Rick, is kind of a stiffer profile. To find something in 115 and graphite, it will be brutally stiff. Okay. Normally 100, 110 is typically the limit that a lot of people will play or will manufacture for that matter. Acura makes a 110 shaft, and you better be able to bring the thing around. I'm here to tell you. Uh, the KBS comes out, I think their highest one might be 95 or 100 for them, maybe a 110. I'm trying to think of another one. I know Graphite Design's got one, but I'm not real familiar with their iron program. Uh, and the Catalyst doesn't get that high. And you might get something with the Dart, but again, it's a couple of things. If you're looking for something stiff and you like that really harsh profile, I call it harsh, very stiff. It's harsh to me because I don't swing like that. I would say a 110 or a 110 shaft from Acura, it's the constant weight, would probably be the ticket. If you're looking for something that's a little more common, then I would look at the KBS TGI graphite. That's another one. And then there is, and I'm trying to think of, there's a name of it. It'll hit me eventually. True Temper makes one that is very, very nice. I think it was a PX shaft, a PXI shaft, I think. And that one you can get in the 6.5 and it would do the same thing. All righty. Roland Schneck, what do you say, buddy? How are you? Good picture, dude. Like it. Welcome. I was a lieutenant commander and served on the CVA 64 Connie. Ran the bow and the waist cats. Well, Lieutenant Commander, thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. And this guy, this Master Chief, served on the Coral Sea. And he said Coral Sea, I about fell out of my chair. He says, "Oh, you've heard of it?" And I'm like, "Who hasn't? Who hasn't heard of that ship?" And oh yeah, and so and of course they during the whole fitting, the whole studio was doing this. We were rocking back and forth from all the sea stories. It was hilarious. The guy was a class act. And CVA Connie, oh my gosh. And these are bringing back some names here now, buddy. And congratulations. And thank you so very much for the service. Roland, thank you so much. Hey, thank you for the sticker here, buddy. I appreciate it. Have you had a chance to get your hands on the KE4 Max irons? Actually, I have my test clubs for my right-handed are KE4s, not the KE4 Max. I'm a lefty. They don't make the KE4 in left-handed, at least the Max iron. But I can tell you that uh, the stuff that they make up there is a quality make. Sometimes I get put off maybe from the cosmetics every once in a while. However, the club itself works. The K4 line is solid. I think their TS line is probably a little bit better, but you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong by purchasing them for sure. Vic, thank you. They were spec'd out at PX Store back in March when my swing was awful. Well, there is now you can do that, Vic. So the thing was, if you go, let's say you go get a lesson and you change your posture or you change the way you deliver the club, you might need a lie angle change. So yeah, I would certainly go get it done. All right. Oh, shaft deflection board. Yeah. Now that for sure, that thing, I always wondered about that. I was always intrigued by that thing. I made one. I made a shaft deflection board. I went and got the square channel, the whole 9 yards, and put up on a board, made it just two spec. And you're right. It lasted about a grand total of about 4 minutes, and it was done. Now those deflection machines that they've got out, those intrigue me even more. Uh, Yananich up there at Golf Works, he swears by that thing. Absolutely swears by him. There's something to the idea of it. There really, really is. Um, I just have to work with it more in order to do it. Right now, my process is my process, and it is what it is. But there is something to be said about the profile deflection and that you can move it around. But yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you all day long. Yeah. Here we go, Charlie. Good deal. We have a winner. There you go, Matt. Well done. Phil, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. That's awesome. You guys are, it just absolutely floors me that happens. I appreciate it very, very much. Revley 0230 turning in now. See you next. Yes. 2:30. Dang on, bud. That's a little early. I get up at 4:30, so it's there. Matt down to about 140. Yeah. Good for you, dude. Good for you. All righty, guys. So thanks to Peter. Thanks to Phil. Thanks to Roland. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It just absolutely makes my day when something like that happens. Also, if you guys remember, like and subscribe, and that way more of this gets put out to the folks. I enjoy this question and answer. Uh, and with Matt being here, I see, it's like talking with Tom. That dude never stopped talking about golf clubs. Just a wonderful individual. Again, tomorrow there's a video, and it will be on what's in my bag. And we did have changes from last year. It's what's in my bag, and hopefully you guys take a look at it. Let your friends know. And if you get in here and you have a time for the show notes, put in that Christmas gift that you think that you would like, so we can. I'm just going to put it in along with the other things that I'm finding out here as well. All right. And guys, again, I appreciate this. It's just absolutely fantastic. And as always, let's see your scores go low.